In Georgia, the South Caucasus nation bordering Russia, the most watched television channel, Rustavi 2, is also one of the government's biggest critics. The channel describes recent moves taken against it in the courts as an attempted takeover by allies of the government, which calls itself the Georgian Dream Coalition. Georgian Dream is backed by a politically inclined billionaire, Ivanishvili, himself a former prime minister who also has his own program on a channel called GDS, which happens to be owned by his son. But Rustavi, too, has some political muscle behind it as well, backing its pro-European, pro-NATO position. The former president, Mikhail Saakashvili, is now working for the Ukrainian government as the governor of Odessa. But his not-so-hidden hand was recently exposed when a wiretap recording had him suggesting revolutionary-style tactics to defend Rustavi, too, from government action. There are diverging political agendas at play here, and with Georgians voting for a new parliament next year, the stakes are high. Al Jazeera's Forestier-Walker in Tbilisi now for The Listening Post on the Georgian media and how they could become an election issue.
Rustavi 2 is watched by most Georgians for its news output, political satire and soap operas. Now it's involved in a drama of its own. Rustavi 2's owners are fighting a court ruling handing control of the channel to a former shareholder. Director General Nika Gvaramia says this is a government attempt to neutralize Georgia's most watched broadcaster.
We are fighting for our rights, freedom of speech, and it's not about just our company, particular company. It's just about democracy in Georgia. It's just about our Euro-Atlantic future. So can we work in this environment? Yes, we can, but it's very, very hard and very tough. And we don't know what will be next step of government.
Rustavi 2, it's very well known, and the current owners, the Director General of that channel currently, do not hide that they have instructions or sympathy from the former government. The current General Director of the Rustavi 2 company, he used to be Minister of Justice under the former government. He's definitely not seen by the Georgian society as a neutral person.
The majority of Georgian population watch Rustavi 2, but at the same time, the majority thinks that it is linked with the opposition. You took into consideration that some stories might be exaggerated, but you still think that the stories that they are talking about really exist and the issues they are talking about are really problematic.
წინასაარჩევნოდ გაცემული დაპირებების უმეტესობა ხელისუფლებამ უკან წაიღო და მმართველობის მეოთხე წელი გაუფასურებული ლარით, გაზრდილი ტარიფებით, მომატებული ფასებით და მედიაზე ზეწოლით დაიწყო.
The government actually does not desire to have such critical TV station, especially during the elections year.
Ever since Georgia's 2008 war with Russia, the question of whether to align more closely with Europe and NATO has been a major debate. Mikhail Saakashvili's opposition United National Movement accuses the current Georgian Dream government of lacking the will to confront Russia. Rustavi 2 airs these and other concerns in the media, and nobody has been more vocal about their dislike of the channel than Ivanishvili, the billionaire who was central to defeating Mikhail Saakashvili's party in 2012. Ivanishvili went on to become prime minister and remains the primary benefactor of the Georgian Dream coalition.
Rustavi the propagandistული სიცრუის მანქანა ნაციონალური მოძრაობის საუბედუროდ დღეს დომინირებს მედია სივრცეში.
Whatever its opponents may wish for Rustavi 2's future, politics have been central to its past. In 2001, the channel faced off against the government of Eduard Shevardnadze when a police raid on the channel sparked huge street demonstrations. 2 years later, Rustavi 2's coverage became the voice of what Georgians call the Rose Revolution. The Shevardnadze government was forced to resign and Mikhail Saakashvili was elected president.
We are giving him 60 minutes to resign.
A series of murky ownership deals cemented Saakashvili's grip on Rustavi too, making sure that the coverage stayed supportive. So last month, when a site called Ukrainian WikiLeaks released wiretap recordings, including a conversation between the former president and his former minister, Rustavi 2's top manager, it confirmed what many Georgians already suspected, that Saakashvili still plays a hand in the politics of the country and that the channel works alongside him.
Their conversation was, to put it mildly, troublesome for the Georgian society, for all of us, because Saakashvili was ordering his Minister of Justice, currently General Director of Rustavi 2, to use this civil dispute and organize, I'm quoting, bloodshed in Georgia.
But what is the problem with this conversation? It's a legal conversation. It's a legally typed conversation. How can we accept this fact? Our government is listening us illegally, or even worse, they are cooperating with FSB, which is, our enemy number one. It's a Russian modern KGB. It's a grave illegal act.
The investigation into whether that phone conversation constituted a plot to overthrow the government adds more pressure on Rustavi 2 and its Director General. As for the recording, any Georgians with access to the web could hear it for themselves, initially on a website with a penchant for criticizing the former president, and then spread by other new media outlets with a distinctly anti-Western agenda. Sites like Sakinform, G-World, Marshall Press and Obyektivi TV that have emerged over the past 5 years and are gaining in popularity in the Georgian media sphere.
It is a very effective network that they have. Sometimes you see that there is one individual who established the NGO, and the same NGO established the news agency, and then this news agency established the TV station. Sometimes these media outlets are also linked with the Russian outlets and Russian news agencies. So their message is very simple.
Ვერც ამერიკა და ვერც ევროპა საქართველოს ვერ წაიყვანს წინ, იმიტომ რომ სულიერად ისინი ჩამორჩენილები არიან. როგორც არ უნდა განვითარდეს ინფორმაციული ტექნოლოგიები, ეს არაფერს არ ნიშნავს.
Every media outlet in Georgia is free to choose its own partner abroad, including in the region and in Ukraine as well. Everybody in Georgia is free today, tomorrow, to create his or her own media outlet and express his or her own opinions. Nothing disturbing in that. It's very well known, and the current owners, the Director General of that channel currently, do not hide that they have instructions or sympathy from the former government and from the former ruling party. But that's how democracy works.
Georgia's government may have defeated Mikhail Saakashvili and his party 3 years ago, but those loyal to him have continued to enjoy influence over the airwaves. And what happens to Rustavi 2 in court, whether it ends up in the hands of the government's supporters or remains under the control of pro-Saakashvili forces, may well have an impact on who wins Georgia's next election next year.
On the download now, our viewers weigh in on the politics dividing Georgia's media.
Georgians are very engaged politically and like knowing the other side of the story. Rustavi 2 is particularly important because most Georgians get their news from television. Printed papers are expensive, they have small circulation and don't have that resources to do good investigative journalism that Rustavi 2 does. Despite the growing popularity of social media and online TV, the internet news can't replace the traditional one, especially outside Tbilisi, where the internet access is still not that common.
Those TV outlets which are seen as being more biased against closer ties with the European Union have a smaller but quite loyal audience. I think the role of the media will be big in shaping the political environment ahead of next year's elections, but given the problem of generally quite low journalistic standards, which is a problem across the board in Georgian media, I think that role could actually be quite negative.